Assalamu alaikum and welcome back again for your next lesson, which we are continuing today. The last day's topic was the cost of production. And in the cost of production, we learned some of the types of cost of production. And we started with an implicit cost and we learned something about the implicit cost. And mainly we focused on the explicit cost, which is before you, and some of the types which we learned was the variable cost, it was fixed cost, and the total cost. Now today we are going to further split cost of production into two classification. We usually classify that the cost of production could also be categorized in two form as per its time period. From the time point of view, how the cost of production could be divided. So the first type, which we could say, it can be a short run, and the other one is known as the long run cost of production. So what is the short run and what is the long run? These are the things and time period of production which we need to learn. Some of it has been shared or maybe had been highlighted while we were discussing supply topic. And today we are going to see in little detail what these short run and long run means. From the production point of view, there are sometimes time acquired for certain products. Some products which can be produced for some particular time, maybe because of their demand for that particular time, then that is going to be either short run or either it's going to be the long run. The short run is something which we can say is a time within a year. Any production which could be produced somewhere in within a year's time. It could be of, let's say, 3 months, maybe 6 months or 5 months. So such kind of production which is taking place for 3 months in full swing is producing its goods and services, or maybe for 6 months, they are known as short run production. Short run production, and this is something which is within a year. Now we can see 3 months are within a year's time. 6 months are within a year's time. So certain products which are produced only for such time within a year's, can be for 7 months, it can be for 8 months. So all these production are known as short run, which means that some of the time has to be remain idle, or maybe the production is slowed down. So what are those products which we can see that they are only produced and demand for certain time? Let's suppose if I just take one example like ice. The ice factory is one example which clearly tells us that how much it could be demanded. Do you think it would be demanded more in winters? Never. Since it's not demanded that much, so it means that its production is not going to be that much. So the production might slow down, or maybe it will not take place. So that means that the ice factory is something which falls in the short run production. So it will produce for certain time. Can you guess how much? Maybe 3 months or maybe 6 months, especially when the weather is so hot. So in the hot weather, this is something which is demanded. Let's take some more example over here. One of my, maybe something from the services sector. Tourism. Now tourism is another example of a short run production. Now what comes in our mind when we talk about tourism? Tourism means you're going to a place where people go and have some fun for some recreation, and over there some employment and production is going on. Maybe somebody's having a stall to sell something. Maybe somebody's selling some lemonades, or something like somebody's selling ice cream. So all these things are somehow are produced. So this production is only happening when the tourism is at its peak. When the tourism is at its high season, then definitely at high season, the tourism will result into higher production. So higher production means higher cost, especially the variable. So it means that in the short run, we see that certain examples are falling in that category. Now you could see in below, I'm still like showing for you last year's lesson that we learned about the variable, We learned about the fixed, and we have learned about the total cost. Now, what do you think? Like out of this short run, do you think this has some relationship with these costs? Yes, of course. They are definitely all part of the short run production. So today, let's learn that basically short run production is going to give us these three costs. We're going to have variable factor cost and we will have the fixed cost. How come? Let's learn about that. Now, while we are having something like an ice factory, now consider that an ice factory would have some factors of production. It would have some labor, it would have some capital, it would have some land, it would have somebody to see as enterprise or entrepreneur. Okay. Now, so we see that the ice factory have all these four factor of production. And which one do you think? If the business or the demand of ice is increasing, let's suppose the demand of ice is increasing. So the ice factory, what does it need to do? It need to add or increase more factor of production. So what should we do now? Should we increase the labor? Yes. Should we increase the capital? Or should we increase more entrepreneur? Or let's say, should we have more land? This is the question for us to think about it. Now let's suppose if somebody says yes, which is not a correct answer. So we need to think about it, why it's happening. Just imagine if an ice factory has to work for 3 months. So in order to meet the demand of ice, when the demand is increasing rapidly, we think that to produce more demand, to meet the demand, to produce more ice, we need more factors of production, right? So let's say if you think that let's increase the size of the land. So what are you going to do? Are you going to buy? Okay, you might not have some sufficient funds to buy. So what you could do? Okay, let's rent out. So you're going to rent out some land, and then do you think that you are going to add some more machines? That means you're increasing the capital, okay, and then you're going to increase the labor, okay, more workers. Now let's see if this decision is right. Do you think that this decision is okay? Okay, now let's suppose after 3 months, you have 9 remaining months in which your factory is closed. Because it's a short run production function. It's a short run industry, it's a short run firm. So what will happen for the remaining 9 months? Are you going to pay the rent for nothing? If you're not producing, are you going to pay then? Okay, I think we shouldn't, because that's going to add up more cost for us. Should we buy more machines? No, that's not again a very good idea, because if you will buy it, it will work for you only for 3 months. For remaining, you can't. What can you do? You can just simply increase the number of workers. Just keep on increasing the workers, or maybe you can increase the labor. And we all know that what is labor? It's actually the efforts. To increase the efforts, what you can do, you can increase the number of hours of work. So this is how this plan is going to work for you. So such factory like an ice factory, if you have more demand of ice, what you can do to have more output, you need to increase the factor of production. But in the short run, it is advised that you cannot increase all the factors of production, but you are going to increase only that factor which can be easily increased and decreased. For example, if you're hiring a land, after 3 months, you cannot dispose. Why? Because you know that the land, when it is rented out, you need to sign a contract. So with the, before that 1 year contract, you cannot withdraw and dispose your building, right? And for the machines, you can buy more machine, but in the short run, if they work only for 3 months, it's not a good idea. Like you just keep on buying more machines and let them unused for the remaining time when you are not producing. So it's better to increase the number of hours of the work. So what we are doing actually, we are actually working on the overtime policy. We are doing the overtime, and this is what actually happens, dear students. In the short run, most of the firm, they don't increase the size of their factors of production, but only one. So some of the factors are changeable and some of them are going to be remain fixed, like machines and land. The capital and the land or entrepreneur, obviously. So in the short run, it is stated that in this type of time period of production, usually only one factor is variable and the remaining are fixed. They are remain constant. They are not to be changed. So what happens? This is something I've illustrated in the way of, in the shape of an example. So you just increase the number of workers or maybe an overtime. And this is what happens. Let's say if you get immediately an order from abroad that your customer requires some products for you, and now he just wants immediately to be placed. His order need to be placed that this much type of products, this number of products is immediately required. So it means that your product is demanded, but what you are doing, you're not increasing the land, you're not increasing the capital, but you are taking an overtime shifts. So the workers are busy there, and this is how you meet. So in the short run, what we learned from all this illustration, that in short run, there are factors which are variable and some factors are remain fixed. So you cannot change all of them due to increase in your demand. So if you think that the factors are some variable and some fixed, so that clearly explains that that is the reason that in the short run, we have their variable cost and we have their fixed costs. So in the short run, usually we are discussing these two together. So short run is having variable cost and fixed cost together. Now, what about the long run cost? What is about the long run cost? The long run production or its cost is actually where all the factors are variable. Now, first of all, we need to know what is the long run production and what are its example. The example for the long run is that it is working for 1 year and onward. Like you are working for 1 year, your output is demanded throughout the year and you are producing it for in a very long run. Now, what are the goods you see around you, which you think that you demand all the year, and it is also produced at the same time? If you're demanding all the year, it means that the producer will definitely supply to you. So what are the things over there? If I just take example over here, like there are a number of things which you can put up over here. So I'm just putting like automobiles. Okay, I'll put the mobiles over here. All right. Now, these are the firms you see which are considered to be a long year production, a long run production, which you can produce throughout the year. As you can see that they are demanded throughout the year. Automobiles are demanded all over the year. Let me take another example like beverages like Pepsi and Coke. You can see that they are also demanded throughout the year. Now, if I just take this example of Pepsi, this is clearly tells us that how throughout the year it's demanded. It is, because even in the winters, people still demand it. in many occasions, maybe some of their parties or some of their festivals, maybe some gatherings, definitely going for such things. So the demand is created over there. So that's why they are like having their throughout the year production. And now, how do you think that all of the factors are variable? Variables mean that if we talk about its land, its labor, its capital, and its entrepreneurs, we may see that their demand will increase. Let's take example. Considering Pepsi once again, if you think that the Pepsi's demand is increasing, can we see that there more with the increase in the Pepsi in whole Pakistan? Do you see that they are increasing their number of plants in various cities? You see Pepsi factories or Coca-Cola factories in many cities. Absolutely right. You do see them. You may see them in Lahore. You may see that in Islamabad, Karachi, and many big cities, even in your city. So you see that land is increasing. Why it is increasing? Just because of the increase in the production. Why the production is increasing? Since its demand is throughout the year, the 1 year and onward, like its demand is done throughout the year, and its production is also done throughout the year. So it means this production, if the demand increases more than its level, then the factors of production need to be increased. And what are we going to do? Are we going to do the same as this? No, we are going to increase all. Why? Because this time we are capable to pay off all the expenditures over here. We can pay off all the expenditure. We can pay for the land, we can pay for the capital, and otherwise. Why we can? Because it's demanded throughout the year, and we are producing every day, and we are gaining some revenues, and we are paying out of our revenues together. So now, in the short, what we are learning today, before the board, if you just see, what it explains us, it tells us that the short run is a time period in which we can produce for a certain time in a year, maybe for 3 months, maybe for 6 months, or likewise. And what we can do, we can produce, while producing, we can vary one factor like labor, but we have to hold constant the other three: land, capital, entrepreneur. So this production function is going to give us two types of cost. The one who is variable, which is changing, is going to give us the variable cost. And the other one, which we cannot change, is like fixed cost. So in this diagram, or in this position, the long run is going to be throughout the year, and we have all the factors which are increasing with the increase in output. The more output you're increasing, the more all the factors are varying. The more output you need to increase, like for example, if you were producing in city A, you had all these factors of production, FOPs, factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. Now, if the demand is increasing, what are you going to do? Are you still going to put pressure on this plant? No, it is not wise. If you think that the demand is increasing too much and it's increasing over the nationwide. So what happens that you are going to supply them in the beginning, but when you see that the demand is constantly increasing, you're going to shift your plant to city B, or maybe within the city. Maybe if the demand is more increasing, you're going to employ more resources in the same. So we can see example, like sometimes if like the mobiles, or if we take example, if there is more demand in one shop and the demand is increasing, after looking into this, then some more shops could be open throughout the city. We have example like that in our community. There is one very famous name. You could see that in the various areas of Sialkot, and they are having their different branches in different areas. I hope if you are not familiar, it's Ali Mobile. I don't want to like put the name, but just for your example, you can see that is one outlet which has its various branches throughout the city. Why? Because the demand of their services is high, their output is increasing, it's demanded throughout the year. That's why they are, by the increase in the demand, they are increasing more of their factors. So while increasing their factors, they are increasing the land by acquiring more land and giving the rent to them, and they are acquiring more capital, like all the displays which they have in their shops. And if, let's say, they want to increase, they can increase more number of entrepreneurs if they like. All right, so this actually includes this one. And now I'm going to sum up today's lesson. We have one more part to add. This lesson is going to continue till next week. And on next week, we're going to try some curves and graphs. And for that, I'm assigning you one worksheet today, which I suppose you should be doing back at home. If you are unable to do that, then I'm afraid that on Monday's lesson, you'll be a little handicapped to understand how the curves are actually made. So that's it for today. You have a safe weekend ahead. I'll see you on Monday class. Allah Hafiz.